Hello. Tomorrow, January 31st, 2018, we have what has been called a Super-Blue-Blood-Lunar Eclipse. It is a full moon / lunar eclipse happening with a supermoon when the moon is among the period, the closest that it will be to the Earth. It actually has been a little bit closer earlier in January, but this still counts as the closest it gets to the Earth. And so that's the supermoon, and the blood moon is because of it being a lunar eclipse when the Earth's shadow falls in between the sun and the moon, blocking the light of the sun, or at least casting a shadow over the moon, which gives it a blood red glow. And it's a blue moon because it's the second full moon in the month of January. This super blue blood lunar eclipse, this lunar eclipse harkens back to, because of the cycle, it's a full lunar eclipse, a full one. And for that reason, it harkens back to the past, in the lunar cycles, back to the lunar eclipse that preceded the full solar eclipse in August 21st, 2017. So the issues that come up with it relate back to whatever was happening in your life at that time, or potentially they can. Any time that there's a lunar eclipse and the emotional issues are heightened, certainly emotional are heightened because the moon is so close to the sun. The moon is in Leo, and Leo likes attention. Leo wants to feel adored and loved. The moon in Leo really wants this. The moon also represents our subconscious, our unconscious personal needs and drives, versus the sun is the more rational, the public, the person that we imagine ourselves to be, or think ourselves to be, or present ourselves to be. This is the sun, and the moon is all that stuff underneath the surface. So when there's a full moon, these two things are in opposition to each other. That gives them an opportunity to see each other, and potentially an opportunity to bring resolution to the dichotomy between the personal and the public, the dichotomy between the unconscious or subconscious drives and emotions and the public persona, and the conscious, rational plan for our life. Potentially, these two things can be at odds with each other. They're naturally at odds with each other, but they have to work together regardless in our life. So the full moon gives us the opportunity for fruition or resolution, for them to see each other and to find a way to work together. The lunar eclipse tends to complicate it a bit. It tends to both, again, we have a supermoon, so the lunar qualities are heightened, the need for attention is heightened, and yet the shadow of the Earth means that there can be a tendency to really want to cover it up, to want to be practical, to feel that like practical needs don't allow for this, whatever this is. In this period of time, there are a few things that will help you with this. One of them is just to be nice to yourself. This is generally a good idea, but in particular right now, with that sort of Leo need for who knows what, something for attention and love, and to feel loved and appreciated. It's a little bit like having a kind of cranky it can be like having a cranky toddler inside yourself that wants attention, wants to be cuddled, and you're busy doing something else. That's very, very important. So if you try to ignore this cranky toddler, it will very likely erupt in an unpleasant way that will not serve anyone's needs. It won't serve the toddler's needs, and it won't serve the rational adult who has something it wants to get done. It won't serve their needs. So you have to find a way to bridge the two. You have to find a way to give the toddler a little bit of what it needs to make it feel loved and appreciated, so that you can go on and do the other things that you, the rational you, wants to do. Both are important. And since they're in fixed signs, Leo and Aquarius, both can have a tendency, both aspects of yourself can have a tendency not to be able to find a middle ground here. And it's very important to work in unorthodox ways to find a way that, if it doesn't, either answers the needs of both or finds a way to allow for the needs of both, because both needs have to be allowed for, the personal and the public, the rational plan and the irrational drives. You may find yourself feeling that those irrational drives have been unusually strong lately, and that would be the nearness of the moon. Or you may find yourself in the face of what's been a kind of overwhelming period of time for the past several weeks or a few months. You may find yourself feeling oddly blank right now. It's very important to pay attention to whatever is coming up. In some sense, maybe even more so if it's blank, because that means there's probably something else going on that you need to let come to the surface. And in many respects too, even though the full moon and lunar eclipse is a very powerful one, in many respects the astrological aspects right now are not as difficult as they have been, not as intensely difficult. Some of the difficult aspects that have been ongoing still remain. And there's something else that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But there's a way in which this is a little bit of a breather. So, you might as well take that aspect of it as well, along with paying attention to the things I just spoke about. The other thing that's going on is that right now, with this lunar eclipse, only one planet doesn't make any aspect to any of the other planets, is unaspected, and that's Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn moved into Capricorn pretty much on the winter solstice, when the Sun also moved into Capricorn. And if you want, I will probably talk more about this in another video, but the astrologer Raymond Merriman, who was also who was primarily a financial astrologer, but who writes really well about mundane astrology, has written very, very, very well, very clearly and eloquently about Saturn moving into Capricorn, in a number of ways in which what it represents. In his forecast book for 2018, and I believe he also wrote about it for 2017. But Saturn moving into Capricorn is very significant, and for any of a number of reasons that he talks about, it relates to a 3-year cycle, a 7-year cycle, and potentially even a much longer, a 29-year cycle. But with Saturn and Capricorn being unaspected right now, both makes it very important, and there can be a bit of a sort of floating, like in the past few weeks you felt like something important is happening, and that your need to get things in order, to deal with the issues in your life in a sort of responsible, ethical, clear, and honest way that shows that creates boundaries and shows respect for your own boundaries and for the boundaries of others, that you felt like it's really important to be moving ahead somehow in this way, but you don't quite know how. You can feel like that. So mostly for that, what you have to do fits with the notion of the what I've said about the lunar eclipse. Be patient. We got a lot of time for this. There's a lot that has to come into play, and find little ways to be nice to yourself. And then the second aspect of that is consider unorthodox approaches. Consider them. You don't have to take everyone, but it's going to take some elegance, some finessing, some thinking outside of the box to find what the real boundaries of the box are these days, and what really is the box of your life. You may feel like you have to solve it all right now, but the actual fact of the matter is that you don't. And that even if you don't get it right, even if like this, the feelings and tensions that come up with this lunar eclipse, even if you don't manage it perfectly, and the toddler has a meltdown, the internal toddler has a meltdown. This is just one thing, one time, And there's a lot more coming down the pike. You don't have to get it all right in one go. Again, as important as Saturn moving into Capricorn makes rules and boundaries and ethics and responsibility, it's still very important to think outside of the box and consider unorthodox or different solutions to the circumstances that you find yourself facing, and to allow for these to develop over time. Remember, as Hamlet said in the play named after him, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. And this holds true for any philosophy, even the most spiritual, enlightened, or astrological one. None of it covers everything. And there's always more coming down the pike. So try to enjoy this full moon lunar eclipse. I hope you get to see it. And remember, there's always more coming down the pike. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.